All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Tomboy Official, coming at you here again with another episode. Still for this Pride Bootcamp series. So today I want to talk about sleep, kind of a combination of sleep, rest, relaxation. They're not all the same thing, but they're kind of all necessities in pretty much the same way. Now, there's something that I think a lot of people maybe don't know. So, sleep, there's usually going to be the amount of sleep that you need to feel good. Now, I don't mean the minimal amount to function, because you can technically function off of no sleep for quite a length of time until the sleep deprivation, problems really start hitting you too strong. But usually if you're gonna have a productive day and you have goals for the next day and motivation and desire for the next day to do something, or if you want to feel well, prioritizing getting good quality sleep, relaxation before sleep, as well as being able to kind of naturally wake up, get into your day. Some people have like a hard start into their day. Some people relax into their mornings. It might just kind of depend what you need for yourself. But, so problems with sleep come in various types. Like something popular that people hear about is insomnia. So insomnia is when you are not able to sleep well. Now that means you can maybe sleep less hours. So say, for example, if you need exactly 8 hours of sleep, but you find yourself sleeping 7 hours naturally, or 6 hours naturally, or 4 hours naturally. So sleeping less than you need, just naturally sleeping less. You can find yourself also with insomnia waking up more often. That's kind of how you would manage to sleep less, is you stay out of the sleep cycle states, the stages. You're out of those more than you would need to feel rested. So you can be waking up too often, waking up for too long of an amount of time. Another version of insomnia is not sleeping when you want to lay down and sleep. So say if I try to sleep at 10 p.m. on the dot, lights are off by, let's say, 9:55 p.m. 10 o'clock rolls around, I'm still awake. 10:15 rolls around, I'm still awake. 10:30 p.m. rolls around, I'm still awake. 11 p.m. rolls around, I'm still awake. Midnight rolls around, I'm still awake, right? Haven't slept at all, haven't nodded off, haven't felt groggy or tired or dozing. I'm just like wide awake. That's kind of what it looks like to not sleep. Kind of within, like, if it takes you more than about 30 minutes or so to fall asleep, you're probably having trouble sleeping. That would be considered having trouble sleeping. And if it takes you an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, to actually sleep from the time that you lay down and start trying to sleep, that can be an issue. Because then, if you're trying to wait that 8 hours from 10 p.m., your 8-hour mark would be like, what, like 6 in the morning? But if you're already not sleeping till like midnight, then you're gonna only sleep maybe 6 hours. And that's if you sleep all the way till 6 a.m. You might wake up earlier than 6 a.m. So that's another thing too. You could potentially wake up too early. So you might fall asleep on time, but you might wake up at like 4 and then not be able to get back to sleep, right? And so a lot of this stuff is stress induced. Not always, but a lot of it is stress induced. There's also hypersomnia. Hypersomnia is when you sleep too much. So you feel the need to sleep and rest and sleep in. Sleeping, like if you feel like you just, like say if you're able to just naturally sleep and you naturally sleep like 12 hours, like you fall asleep at midnight and you wake up at noon, that's a lot. You can't really sustain, your daily functioning and things you need to do if you're maybe on like a common like work shift or things like that. So if you feel like naturally, you have to sleep that much and you're literally sleeping like the whole time, or you're in and out of sleep. So instead of sleeping 8 hours, you're sleeping longer in and out of sleep, to get that rest. It might take you up to 12 hours to start feeling, more rested, things like that. So, hypersomnia, insomnia, that's usually where people focus. Also, they focus on the next day, and they also focus on the night, when you are trying to sleep. So there's the discomfort and frustration and, just kind of like, man, like, I'm not going to sleep on time. And then there's the later on, once you do wake up and you start your next morning, and then there's that problem, which can be, oh gosh, I'm up, I gotta be up, I gotta get up, but I'm still tired. And you start getting ready, you start your work day. You might notice that you're fatigued, foggy, unfocused, your energy's off. You might get drowsy, groggy, irritable, depressed, anxious, worried, having trouble hydrating or feeling hydrated, having trouble feeling full when you're eating meals, or feeling satiated with meals and having to eat way more, not having energy to exercise, consuming too much, caffeine or stimulants, things like this. And we all know that cycle. Most of us all know that cycle where it's like, okay, now I got to deal with this other issue. The difficulties with sleep and rest and relaxation is that when you get a problem in one of those areas, it starts throwing everything else off. And it can be just a day. Last night, for example, I purposely, I recorded a podcast episode, 10 o'clock. I was going to end it a little earlier, and I was like, let me go till almost 11 and start like working on some musical things. And then I was like, it's too late to really think. And there was a movie I wanted to rewatch this weekend. I really like that movie, Amadeus, the 3-hour one, which I started at 11 p.m. And I was like, I'll watch an hour and a half, so I'll be asleep by like 12:30, because I was like dozing. I was already tired. By 11, I was already tired. You could probably tell when I was recording, there were some times I was like saying stuff and I was like, what am I talking about? I was like trailing off and having trouble like focusing on what I was saying. So I did that. I basically like tried to just, I was like, tomorrow's Sunday, so I told myself I'll sleep in till 9. That's what I told myself. I'll sleep until 9. By the time I went to bed, it was like 2 a.m. I fell asleep pretty quickly, maybe 2:30, because, there was a scene kind of at the end that was like, whenever there's like a scene that ends like with violence or death or just something kind of like, a little not pleasant, like if it's not a happy ending kind of movie, it kind of takes a little bit, I can't just like shut off the lights and like start going to bed. It's like, okay, like I'm still thinking about that. Like it wasn't like overly triggering because I had seen the movie like multiple times, but it was still kind of like maybe not the best preferred kind of movie to be watching like right before bed. But I like it. And like I've mentioned, I've been working on music and stuff lately, and sleeping kind of gets me, not sleeping, but watching like movies and stuff like that about music kind of keeps me pretty motivated into it. And so I was watching it for that reason. I was like, well, my goal on Sunday is to wake up, watch some stuff. Make some stuff, start working on making some music and like reviewing some things. So I've got like 3 things I'm working on right now, basically, for this next week. Till June 1st, I'll put it that way. So I'm working on, learning the software, at least up to the parts that I knew before. Working on kind of learning how to like read notes again. I can get that down in about a week, like I was saying before. And then getting back on the keyboard a little bit too. So that's going to be like every day for like maybe an hour for each thing. So about 3 hours out of my days I'll be spending with this stuff. But I feel like weekends are prime time, because weekends I get more time to kind of like work with. Like weekdays I'm working, so I can't do this stuff during work. I don't do this stuff during work. And then I like to do podcast recordings and blogging and stuff after work too, and still have to like exercise and things. So anyways, my plan this morning to sleep in after sleeping at 2 a.m. to try to sleep till like 9, that didn't work. I was up before 7. So I got up, finally got out of bed at like 7:20 something a.m. And then by that time, after using the bathroom and like, there's something I like to listen to before I start like texting and going on social media and all that. I kind of have like a focus that I try to like start at a certain point of like watching a certain thing. I think I've explained it before, but it's like these Talmud class videos. So I like to try to get at least a little bit into one of those every morning before I start doing other stuff. It just kind of puts my head like in a place. It's not really a religious thing for me. It's just kind of like, it's more of like a mindset thing for me, if that makes sense. Like I'm not learning about this stuff to try to follow a religion or to try to like follow what it says. I just like, having like routines and learning about stuff that has some historical significance to my own culture. So that is something that kind of keeps me like connected to that first thing in the morning, and just kind of like connecting to a part of myself that I tend to ignore once I get busy during the day. I kind of just don't think into that stuff too much unless I'm like actively trying to. So I find it beneficial to kind of, focus on spirituality, things that are kind of related to like traditional, like historical kind of thinking and teachings. And not necessarily because I believe in it or because I want to do it or because I think I need to do it or because I'm scared to not do it because of some consequence or anything. Like it's just what I like to do. I'd rather wake up and do that first thing versus wake up and go on Instagram or wake up and go on Facebook. It's like there's something about waking up to something that's like, at least, I don't know, it's kind of like rooted in a lot of like tradition, and I just like it. I like it. It's kind of a form of connection to ancestors of mine, even though, representative wise, I don't really look like them or anything. Like the ones who are doing it now. But as far as my own heritage, I do have specific connected backgrounds. Anyways, but yeah. So it's just something I kind of like to do. But anyways, for that reason, I was up, 7:30. I already had the gears turning. And then I was like, I'm going to lay back down. So I laid down and then realized I wasn't really sleeping anyways. It's like 8:30 a.m. And I was like, I don't want to push too far to not eat or anything. And like, I'm not getting like a headache, but I was getting like a, that feeling when you're like on empty, running low on like calories and that kind of thing. So I was like, all right, I'm going to have to make a decision to either get up. I was like, I'm going to get up and then go back to bed. And I was like, I was going to waste the whole Sunday. I don't want to waste the whole Sunday. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get up, do a little bit of errands. So like after the Talmud thing, I was like, let me just get up, go to the car wash, fill my tank, go, get breakfast for me and my mom, and then, get some coffee with that, and then just, ride the coffee train, pretty much most of the day. So the coffee pumped me up at breakfast, and then I was like, okay, I'll sit with the stuff I'm doing till like 2:30, and then I just had like a snack right now. So I'm going to record a couple episodes, one to post today, Sunday, one to post Monday. Then I'll see if I nap or not. But, yeah, I'm kind of running on coffee today. And it's fine. I'm not really doing anything. I would prefer not to be caffeinated. It's not a preferred feeling for me. It's hard to focus. Like literally when I have caffeine, I have to literally write things down. Not really in the order that I want to do them, but I have to like literally write them down. Which I'm going to talk about in another episode. But if I don't write them down and keep on the task for the one thing, then I'm kind of trying to do like 8 different things at once, and then it's just like I eventually just run out of steam, and then get too frustrated with the process and take a break and stop, or start like watching YouTube or Netflix or whatever. So yeah, I had fruits and stuff for lunch, and late lunch because breakfast was pretty huge. And then yeah, like I said, I'm just kind of gonna relax. But it's one thing this happening on a Sunday, it's another thing if Monday goes the same way. But also sometimes you can determine your stress levels or mood levels just by how you feel. If you wanna just by how you feel, if you're like yeah, your mood levels and things just by how you feel, as far as what you want to do. So if you find yourself not really wanting to focus on the stuff you're trying to get done, you might actually need a break. So kind of knowing what that looks like for you can be really helpful to know, like, okay, this means I need a break today. or this means I need to take an hour break or a 30-minute break, just to refocus, reset. Some days you don't really need to push. Sometimes it's like, if you're having a day where it's like hard to get stuff done, it's okay to just take a moment and just be like, I'm just gonna literally take today fully off. Like, I could have done that. I could have just been like, I'm not gonna have any caffeine and I'm just gonna spend today resting. But because I knew that I stayed up because I wanted to stay up late, it wasn't because like I was stressed and tossing and turning. It was because I literally just would rather have wanted to watch a movie late and then finish the movie. Even though I was going to stop at 12:30, I was like, let me just finish the movie. Because, there's another hour and a half left. And like, it's literally a 3-hour movie. But that's just what I wanted to do. I don't like staying up late anymore. I don't like staying out late anymore. I wake up early, like I said, and this was a late wake up day for me. This was late, waking up at, like before 7. It was a little before 7 though, probably like 6:50 something. That's late for me. Like usually even 6:30 can be a little late. But now the trick today is to try not to get so caffeinated that I can't sleep tonight on time, and that would impact my morning. So one thing that helps me is having goals for the next day. Like tomorrow I'm going to work out before work. I'm trying to do that on weekdays for a little bit. Again, just for like the month, and they're not heavy workouts. I would probably get a much better workout if I waited till after work and went to the freaking gym. But because, by the time it's like 4:00, I may have changed my mind. And I'm realizing, like I mentioned before, there is kind of like a fine line for me with, I guess it's a blood sugar thing. There's a fine line for me between, waking up early with like, my blood sugar is not necessarily considered like low blood sugar, but it's like the fact that if I eat an early dinner, I'll be up, if I eat an early dinner, I can wake up earlier, but then when I wake up mentally, I'm kind of a little deprived. So, and because I wake up, I try not to eat at like 6:30 in the morning, because once you start doing that, it's like, everyone has their preferences, but for me, that's not a preference. Because if I do want to sleep in, I don't want to be hungry at 6:30 in the morning. If I do have like a rough night or something, and then I wake up and I'm like, I'm waking up because I'm hungry, like I'm literally going to have to eat at 6:30 in the morning. So I try to push, like if I'm working out, I'm probably going to eat a little snack. Like I've been doing like a pre-workout and a banana, or or coffee and a banana, or like something like just real basic like that, at like 7 a.m. And then maybe around like 9 or so, or well, if I'm working out until like 8, then at 8:00 having some protein, then maybe another snack sometime around 11 or so, kind of a little earlier honestly than 11. And then, I'll have, so breakfast basically consists of like 2 to 3 like snacks. And then lunch is usually, I try to eat lunch later. Because I get off work at 4, which is a weird time, because at 4:00, you can't really eat dinner at 4. It's still too early to do too much because most people aren't even available yet. So if you want to go out, it's like you're probably not going to meet anybody till about 5:30. And yeah, so if you eat dinner at like 4, but if you sleep at like 10 or 11, you might be hungry again by that time if you don't eat enough, like if you don't eat bigger meals. So there's almost like a 3 hour kind of time, when I'm like free technically. And that's when I'm like, okay, do I need to rest? Do I need to relax? Do I need to like veg out? Do I have errands to do? What actually do I need to do? And that's when the organization and the to-do list kind of comes in handy. Trying to like prioritize things out. And Sundays are a good day for that, for me anyways, to just kind of like put everything down on paper and see kind of what it's looking like. I'm going to talk about this more in another episode, but it does help to not have multiple planners, because sometimes you'll put something in one planner and not put it in another one. So right now I've got a little notebook that has plans in it. I've got another loose piece of paper in the same backpack as that notebook with the checklist in there. I've got a newly created notepad to-do list on my laptop. So it's one thing, I feel like it's one thing to have the to-do list on like my phone notes or on my, calendar on my phone, or on like Google Docs or somewhere where I can just access it all the time. It can be helpful, but I don't really know. Like it can be helpful to have it, but it's just that, like it's helpful to have it, but having it in like 3 different places, it's just asking for problems with organization. Because I might cross it off one list, or I might not add a different item to all the lists don't have all the same stuff on them. So trying to like reduce the stress in that way. But for relaxation and stress related to sleep, that's one thing that I'm trying to kind of learn more about, because I can handle pretty high stress levels and tolerate a lot of things, but almost to the detriment of my health almost. Now I feel lucky that I haven't had a lot of like physical health issues, but definitely I've noticed a difference, gray hair, getting sore, weight gain, my mood kind of just being all over the place. And a lot of it was related to my living environment and just not being happy with the way things were going with that, and just some other insecurities and stuff. And so having to deal with stuff like that is normal, but at the same time, it's like, if you have options that you can take to not have to deal with it, it's probably best to just not have to deal with it. Like, of course, we're all going to have to deal with stressful things. We can't escape stress. It's not possible to just be like, well, I'm just not going to be stressed anymore. Like, that's not really how that works all the time. But, sometimes things need to be taken care of for the stress to be reduced. And then when you're already stressed or overwhelmed, it's hard to kind of take care of the things. But a lot of times that impacts sleep. And it doesn't seem like it does, because it might be subtle. But some things that I notice, and I'm not the type of person who's really like, don't take any kind of supplement ever for any kind of thing, or any kind of medicine or natural remedies or whatever. Like, but the way I see it, melatonin helps you sleep. CBD helps you sleep or relax. Cannabis as well. To some extent, I don't know. Edibles are different than like smoking or vaping. Edibles kind of are a little higher on the psychoactive side, so it's kind of a little more on the trippy end than just like vaping or smoking. And then CBD doesn't have that psychoactive effect, melatonin, But the thing is, too, with some of these things is if you take them, you might be groggy the next day. And so then what do we do when we're groggy? A lot of times, we get up and we pump ourselves full of stimulants, right? And that can affect your productivity in a good way. It can make you productive. Even if you can't focus, at least you can work. And then you might have a crash sometime late afternoon, maybe, or you might not. The good thing for me is if I get a 3:00 crash, it's like, well, I'm only working 1 more hour, so I can usually push. But you might get drowsy. Caffeine isn't a substitute for sleep. Sleep, those types of like supplements and things, they're not a substitute for relaxation. They can help you to get into a relaxed state, or caffeine and things like that can help you to get in a state where you're like, able to kind of like get things done quickly before your energy crashes, or before you really have no energy. If you are sleep deprived and start getting drowsy or groggy, you can kind of front load like that, it's like wake up, pound a lot of caffeine, and then like you're kind of good for a little bit. But eventually it wears off unless you keep taking it, and then it's going to affect your sleep the next day, probably the next night. Or you might have to take something to go to sleep on time. But that kind of quality of sleep is different than the kind of sleep that you just naturally fall asleep, naturally wake up. You're relaxed when you're sleeping, you're relaxed when you wake up. You're energized and focused when you're awake. If you I want to say if it's hard for you to naturally get your energy in a space where you need it to be without using anything at all, that's something to kind of look into. Like, I'm not a doctor and I can't really say like do this, do that. But for me, that's kind of like the sign where I'm like, I need to focus or find what's the culprit to this situation. Like, if I'm finding myself not able to fall asleep and I'm trying to rest and I feel tired, that is something to look into and try to figure out what's going on for myself. If I find myself having trouble waking up in the morning and just getting focused, and if the fog is so intense, that's something I've struggled with a lot too, is like waking up. Not only is my mind just kind of like just negative headspace sometimes, at least in the more recent past, not in the past few weeks, but before that, definitely. I had quite a few months, maybe like almost a year, where I was just like, I'd never really been in that headspace before when I first woke up in the morning. And I was like, this isn't good. This isn't good to like wake up and feel like this. Because then it was like, well, I dread going to sleep because I don't want to wake up and be like in this negative headspace. And like I said, I'm waking up early. So if I'm up at like 6:30, 5:30 in the morning, and then I don't work till 8, and I'm just like in this negative mindset for like hours every morning, that's not fun. That's not pleasant. So that's why I'm like, well, let me just wake up because I'm up anyways. I rarely actually end up drowsing, like drifting back to sleep in the mornings. Very rare. Like, even if it was like once a month, that would be more than what I already do. So when I started realizing that, I was like, I'm just going to force myself to just get up in the morning because I'm already like up, but why be up and then just negative? It makes more sense to wake up and just like, so I do keep something like a stimulant, coffee or pre-workout like next to my bed before I go to sleep. So if I know I'm going to work out in the morning, I have the pre-workout ready, already shaken up in a water bottle and just like sitting right next to my bed. And I wake up, drink it, and then it just kind of kicks me into the mode I need to be in. And, that problem's out of the way. But, I'm not taking like a whole pre-workout. I'm just taking like a portion of the scoop. I'm not taking like the full scoop, the full dosage of it or anything. But yeah, I do think it's worth looking into if you naturally feel like you can't function without any kind of supplement of any kind. And I mean, people do it for years, so I can't really say that it's not okay to drink coffee or that it's not okay to take melatonin at night or whatever. But people do these things for years, I know. And I wonder, it's just coming to my mind more because, I mean, I was one of those people who was kind of like, I have to have something. Like there were certain points in my life where I was like, I can't sleep if I don't have something to like put me to sleep. Like I can't just like sleep. And I didn't really equate stress levels, lack of relaxation, just not feeling settled with myself, and all the other insecurity related stuff. I didn't really equate that lifestyle and situations I was dealing with internally to my sleep and energy level issues. But one thing, that getting back into music kind of helped me realize was, I was looking back at some videos I made and like tutorials, and I was like, I seemed like I was pretty sharp then. I mean, mind you, I could see the times that I was like recording these videos, because they're, it was like screen recorded software tutorials and stuff, so you could see like the time on my laptop, and it was like 12:30, 12:20, after midnight, and like 3 a.m., 2 a.m. So I was doing these at like early hours, and I think I was in a way like depressed during that time, but like motivated. Like it's kind of like my sleep shifted, so I was sleeping later. I was sleeping like way late, as in very early in the morning, and then not waking up early in the morning. But I was also very productive when I was awake. I was like hardcore into like learning all the software and a lot of like techie and electronic and programming type of things that I really was into back then. Learning web design, all this kind of stuff. I didn't have a lot of focus to it, but it was good enough that like, I did a lot of productive things and captured and recorded them. And looking back at that, I'm like, wow, like I don't even like know how I had that energy. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was like coffee and stuff, but I was like, at 12:30, I'm not usually doing that anymore, which is fine. I don't want to be up at 12:30 like recording tutorials, but it just got me thinking of like, there was a point in time when I had motivation, goals, energy towards like a lot of this creativity kind of stuff, and then there were certain points in my life when I just stopped doing it, and then I kind of realized the cycle of like when I stopped, why I stopped, what it was that was making it hard for me to get back into it, and how that impacted me in other areas, because it was hard for me to really be balancing things. So those were kind of some time periods where I was like really having trouble, working on my health and just like my routine maintenance of myself, because for me it's like hard when I'm not it's hard when I'm not grounded by my creative like tasks and things. Like a lot of times when I have like something creative to do the next day, or social, usually creative and social things are the two things that really can like keep me pretty motivated, but or learning, things like that. But yeah, when I have nothing planned but work the next day or something like that, and then work and Netflix or work and YouTube, just watching, consuming, that for me is not fun. I mean, there are days like that where I'm just gonna like not do anything. I don't have to be like overly like active and like always busy. I can sit there and meditate and do other like relaxing things or watch stuff, or but I like every day to sit every day and like watch Netflix till dinner, and then after dinner just watch more Netflix. I mean, to me, that's not ideal. That's not quality for me. I can do that for maybe like a couple days or one day, and then I'm like, okay, I need to be like doing something else. But if I feel like I don't have the energy or desire to do anything else, then I'm like, oh no, like I'm back at this place right now. So just for me realizing though that lately I've come into a space with myself where, man, I don't want to jinx it, but it's like I'm finally feeling like I'm able to just like wake up and do stuff, get back into like some creativity type of stuff. And like I'm not much of an alcohol person, mostly because the side effects the next day are just like not worth the drinking the night of. So I kind of learned that, that I just don't really like alcohol that much. But I'm kind of in the stage of like questioning, cannabis use as far as like the amount. Because I'm finding, as my life is becoming more relaxed, less stressful, my sleep is getting better, my motivation and hobbies and activities and things are getting better. I don't really find it as necessary anymore. And I didn't really realize, like, I mean, I knew that I was kind of like using it as like a supplement and things like that. But, I think, adding that to the mix of my routine in a way kind of did get in the way of my creativity. Like, I've been creative as in like, podcasting, blogging, things like that. But you can tell, like, if I'm kind of stoned, the quality is kind of like, I don't know what I'm saying half the time. Like, I'm just like, sometimes I'm just like on another wavelength. And that's fine. If that's how it's going to be, it's how it's going to be. I'm not knocking it for myself or whatever, or for anybody else. I'm just saying, like, at this time in my life, I don't think it's like ideal for me to be, at least on the same level that I was kind of using things. I don't feel like it's necessary. And mostly because I'm noticing if my stress levels are different, then it's not really something that is really gonna benefit me. Now it doesn't not benefit me, but I don't feel like I'm gonna be as focused. Like, I can be productive, I can be motivated. I don't think cannabis makes me unmotivated or lazy. It definitely puts me in different creative headspaces, that's for sure, and gets me out of my limited mindset and kind of helps me kind of unpack things that I didn't even know needed to be unpacked. Like, I'll just come to ideas in my mind about this. I mean, I don't write it down all the time, but sometimes I'm like, yeah, like, wow, I'm insecure about this thing, and that's what's making me do this other thing. And I'm just like, okay, where'd that thought come from? It's like during my normal day, I'm not really thinking that way, but I have a lot of epiphanies when I have cannabis in my system. And so, they're positive, epiphanies, they're helpful things, but I don't know what it is with like memory and consolidation and things that it impacts for me, but yeah, that's kind of just one thing that I've been thinking, that I was like, okay, how come back then I was able to do all this other stuff? And then I started realizing like that was something that was missing in my life. I wasn't engaged with cannabis like at all, really. Like maybe once a year or something. Like, it wasn't like a routine of any kind. It wasn't something that like I had like easy access or regular access to, or I wasn't like purchasing it or anything. That's more of a recent thing. But I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking cannabis. I'm just saying That's my experience with it, is that it's always been beneficial to me, but I'm kind of curious to see if it's still beneficial to me, like when I'm trying to do these other things that are kind of more like intellectual and requiring like a lot more focused energy. I mean, there is, microdosing and taking less of something as well. So I'm wondering, I definitely would say that I take too much of stuff, like not way too much, but like it's kind of like the end of my day. Like I'm not planning on really doing any other thing. And so, that's where that comes in. I'm not usually waking up to any kind of cannabis products. Unless it's like a weekend, sometimes like a lazy Saturday. I've done like a 6 a.m. like get stoned kind of thing. If I know I'm literally just forcing myself to lounge all morning, then yeah, maybe I'll do that. But it doesn't help. It doesn't really help. So, like that's literally if my focus of my day, if my intention is just to just stay home, I might clean or something like that, organize. Cannabis helps with that, but like it does have its benefits. It kind of helps me bypass the parts of my brain that just don't want to get things done. But also it's like there's another side that's like a different type of productive that I can't really easily tap into just because it's hard for me to like focus. But I'm, debating with it too, because it's like I also know how caffeine affects me, and then I'm like, I'm not the hugest fan of taking melatonin on a regular basis. So, yeah, but overall, I would say the relaxation and stress levels, and rest and having that stuff being managed is usually what's going to be the key. And it's like, take a week, maybe 2 weeks if you need to, if you can, to just focus on yourself, focus all your energy on yourself, on your needs, on your things. Usually that's pretty helpful. It's a bit jolting at the beginning and uncomfortable for like 1 or 2 days, I would say. But then once you start, getting things organized and in order, it's easier to just be like, okay, I'm just gonna like focus on myself, do these things on my list. What do I desire? How do I wish my days would look? And what do I want to spend my time doing, right? But yeah, so that's it for now. I'm going to stop this recording for now, but I hope that was helpful. Talking about sleep. Sleep can be a challenge. But, it's definitely a daily cycle type of a situation. You got to manage it daily, every day. Or else it's going to throw off your next day. And if your next day is thrown off, that might throw off the following night. And then that next day after that. And like, it can just keep going on and on and on. But if you can get to a relaxed space too, that's going to be beneficial. Because, you don't want to get into like a supplement kind of loop either necessarily. I mean, it might not bother you. But sometimes I feel like it is too heavy of an impact. So even if you do get in a supplement loop, like I'm not a doctor again, like I said, but like what I've noticed, if I'm taking melatonin, maybe the 10 milligrams is too much. Maybe 5 is even too much. maybe taking like 2 or 3 milligrams. Same with like CBD or like THC, like maybe not taking a 10 or 5 milligram, edible, maybe taking like 1 or 2 milligrams worth of it. You know, maybe just taking one hit off the vape pen, or one hit off of a joint, or one hit from a pipe, just one hit of a bowl, not smoking the whole bowl. Maybe, taking a couple sips of coffee at a time instead of drinking one whole cup all at once. Or like I mentioned with the pre-workouts, a portion of it. Like I'll do one whole scoop in a water bottle, but I won't drink the whole bottle. I'll just drink like maybe a third, maybe a quarter. And that's kind of, keeping it kind of mellow. Usually your mind and body, if you've slept like decently, if you're rested and relaxed decently, you can usually function on minimal amounts of supplements instead of like the full amount that kind of creates other cycles that don't help. Like you don't want anything that's going to make you groggy or foggy in the morning, because then you're going to have to take something else to kind of try to fix that. So you don't want something that's going to hype you up too much throughout the day and not be able to rest and relax and unwind at the end of the day, because then you're going to have to take something to kind of bring you down. And that's a lot for the body to be dealing with every day. So, all right, guys, I said I was going to end this episode, so hopefully that's helpful, and look forward to recording more. Thanks for listening.